Good morning. My name is Lorene. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. This is the second part of a big pile of books that I decided that I should break into two parts, therefore part two. And it's the same day, so I'm still sipping scotch that you would have seen in the previous video. I'm a little more relaxed. These books are not as exciting as the first books that I was recommending. They are in reverse order of reading, so let me see, what else can I say? Yeah, I think it's a little more disappointing. So yeah, if you're not in the mood for disappointing, see you later. But there are still some gems in here. Okay, so Diane Wynne Jones, as I started to do in the previous video, I started to get my stories mixed up, which is not unusual for me. Diane Wynne Jones creates these magical worlds that everything just fits in, and these three books in the series are it's the same world. The characters tend to flow through each other's books, but we don't have a clear relationship to any particular characters. But because I was getting them all mixed up, I decided that what I'm going to do is just do a separate video on these three books, so that I can practice and I can remember exactly what went on. But I will say that of the three, and what they don't do on the spine of the book, which I think would be very helpful, would be book 2, book 3, something like that for us oldies. This, I think, is, anyways, doesn't matter, my favorite. This is The House of Many Ways. I love the main character in this book, and I'm going to talk to you about it at a different special Diane Wynne Jones event. Maybe I'll have wine. Maybe Anyhow, the second book I wanted to talk to you about is Kate Morton, The Distant Hours. Now, this was kind of a weird book. It's big. There's a lot of detail. There are they're not really a lot of characters, but there's a lot of depth to these characters. We get to know them fairly well, we see them sort of 1945 and current day. There are three sisters who live in a castle who have had a certain kind of parenting that is waka waka. There is the World War II comes into play. This is the kind of book that you're going to love it, or you're just going to be blah. I don't think you can hate it, because there are too many elements in it that are quite interesting. And the author does do beautiful descriptions. It's a very descriptive book, on the settings, on the rooms, on the characters' behaviors, their mannerisms. She really captures, how a woman smokes. You can see it. Maybe how a different character, more committed to housework, you can see her setting the table, and you can see that table after it has been set, and the appearances that character tries to maintain. So you can see the desperate, what's that word? There's a word in there, it doesn't matter. The difference between pre-setting the table and post-setting the table. I mean, she just captures these vignettes. They're really lovely. The problem I had with this book was the main character. We get the voice of Eddie. Edith is her real name. I don't know whether you would call her Edie or Eddie, but anyhow. So I called her Eddie in my mind. She encounters an assignment to go and interview these three sisters. Her mother has had some previous entanglements with this family during World War II. As one of the children in the first evacuation on the trains, she ends up living with this family for maybe a little over a year. So there's a history that the daughter didn't know anything about, And I'm not sure that the sisters pick up on it right away, although as you go into the book, it's one of those peeling books, you know, each time you kind of do a cycle through the different characters, because we encounter them. um, we don't every time encounter them one after another, but we do encounter them in sort of a cyclical manner. um, More things are revealed. I think the manner of the storytelling is what do you call that? Would that be the story arc, or the cycle of revelation? I don't know exactly what it's called. I don't know it enough, but there was something about the structure of the book that was presented by the main character Edie that now didn't love, but I loved so much else about this book. So I'm going to recommend it with a bit of a warning that if you like your narrators to be what was it was it's not like she's an unreliable narrator, and it's not like she's ignorant of what's happening around her. That's not it at all. It's just a peculiar main character. Now, so the story flips between the first person and then the omniscient. Well, it's not omnipotent. Oh my goodness, what is that word? Hopefully you know what the word is and you can substitute it in, fill in the blank here. So we get that kind of storytelling as well, a third person of some sort or another. It rocks between 1940s and a little bit prior to 1940s. The third daughter is born just before World War II. There's some very eccentric things that happen. The third daughter, or the third one of the sisters, that's probably less confusing. She has got some. She probably has. She's probably. They're not really mental health. I think there's probably something diagnostically wrong with her that today would not have been allowed to go forward. But the father encourages this. Deficiency. I really don't know without giving it away, because that's the hard part of doing these book reviews, is what to tell you so that you're intrigued, but what to not tell you so that you're surprised. So let's just say the third sister has got a few twerks, and the father aids and abets that, and of course as time goes by it's not a successful choice, but how that manifests itself is pretty interesting. So I'm kind of like 50-50 on this book. And I'm not sure what else the author has written. The Secret Keeper, The Forgotten Garden, The House of Riverton, The Lake House. I think that it's worth checking in and seeing her other books. And so I think I'll make that a winter project, because, I just got too many other cool things on the go. So pop that in for the do it later. Winterkill. This is a young adult's book. It's written by Kate A. Boorman. I didn't like it. I should have liked it, because it's kind of pioneery, and I do like that sort of figuring out how to survive on the land situation. I do like community stories. There is a character who is so the background is that people have been exiting towards the Western civilization. This is not in the past. This is kind of in the future. Something's gone wrong. People have migrated west. They encounter First Nations. The history has gone on in a verbal kind of a way. There's no written history, so the stories have changed according to the whoever tells the story is the person who has the most power. So this history of these people has are you sure that's how things went? So there's a little bit of ambiguity there, which comes into the conclusion of the book. But there's the leader of the pack, the leader of the settlement has just, I don't read it, okay? Like, you know what? It's just going to take me too much time to remember what really happened, and let's just say, don't read it, and then we'll save ourselves, both of us, just a lot of shit. All right, The Given. I loved this book. This a kind of hilarious book. There's a dragon, but this is the story where, or the kind of dragon. I've got a fruit fly for him once my scotch and can't have it. So the dragon in these worlds can switch between dragon form and human form. All dragons can do this, and these are islands you would sort of think Tahiti or Hawaii or those kinds of tropical Pacific islands with certain cultural material culture that's similar in terms of like the feather headdresses or the feather capes or the way that stories are told or stories are danced, and magic is definitely a part of all of the different islands' cultures. So the girl Yenny is a princess on her island. She's expected to make a significant marriage, but people, in particular her father, have come down with a sickness that the mages can't figure out how to solve. So it comes to her through the gods that she needs to go to the main island and educate herself on modern magic. She does that. She is within minutes encounters a dragon. Yes, that's right. The hero of the story is in dragon form when they first meet. Their culture, the Yenny's culture, has not seen a dragon for a couple of hundred years because in an earlier war, someone came along and killed all their dragons. So they know that dragons exist, but they haven't had any cultural experience with them for ages. So this dragon that surrounds her and swirls her and rolls her around and stuff, he's just an impulsive, young, immature man, dragon who has a military future. He's convinced that she is his given. There's sort of this fate, what would you call it, like almost at a genetic bonding kind of a level. There's just nothing you can do to not be given to each other. So she's completely human. It doesn't matter. These kinds of relationships can take place. He knows about it because he's a dragon. This has been going on in their culture for generations, but because she hasn't seen dragons are part of their culture, she has no idea what this fellow is talking about. So I don't know if you ever watched Mork and Mindy. It's got a little bit of Mork and Mindy in it in terms of they take playing turns being Mork and turns being Mindy. Anyways, it's just there's that kind of clash between cultures. There's a clash between expectations. As a student, she encounters people who want her powers and her magic because she has an age-old, ancient knowledge of runes and tattooing the runes so that the magic is part of the tattoo. And so there's all kinds of really interesting magical explanations and experiences, and the whole not understanding what a dragon's world is like and exploring what that is. And then of course there's this dragon human romance that it's funny because she's like, get out of my space, buddy. I don't know who you are. And so she's got that kind of she's colored. She's got that kind of black, confident womanness about her. She's not a cringing female at all. She's got attitude, and she's not going to take this shit from this dragon who's telling her what she's supposed to be doing. She's going like, well, even if I am your given, screw you, I got better things to do. So it's just that kind. And he's like, what? Why wouldn't you want? Like, what? I am the best dragon around here. Why wouldn't you want me? So there's that kind of a conflict too. So it's slightly tragic, slightly magical. Well, more than slightly magical, but the magic is just such imbued all over the community. So it's not really. We get some books where the magic is just an eccentric thing, because you're sort of out of whack with your community because you're the only one magic. This is different. Everyone's got magic of some sort. So, and then there's this wacky doodle romance that is just so cute. So I enjoyed it on a whole lot of different levels. From beginning to end, I just really enjoyed it. And I believe that this author, I should have told you that, Nandi Taylor, I believe it was an independent book to begin with, and then was picked up. Now this is Wattpad Books, which is completely new to me. Piece of research there. And I gather that she writes, she's a Canadian writer of Caribbean descent, Dal Balwin. She's a 2-time Wattie Award winner. Don't know what that is. And it was, let me see, it was written in 2018. And I looked her up. It said her books are an expression of what she always wanted more of growing up. Diverse protagonists in speculative settings. Common themes she writes about are growth, courage, and finding one's place in the world. So I did not see what other books she's written. So a little bit of research there. Another little winter project. But yeah, really, really a good book. And if there's a sequel, I could see where there would be a sequel. The way the ending goes, you definitely could see that coming. But even if there isn't, I think she's an author that you would really, really like. All right, completely different book. I don't think I spoke about it because I never finished it in video time. The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating. My sister read this and she said she really loved it. Now, we haven't had a chance to talk about it. My sister has got a chaotic world. She's heavily involved with issues around the COVID and workplace related issues to make things work for the safe for the workers and so forth. So it's been nonstop for her in the last little while. And my sister was well, okay, she still swims, but she's an ocean swimmer, and she did long distance swimming in the oceans, and her neck has kind of gone bad on her. So I think she read it as part of a restorative piece and coming to grips with the change in her life where she can no longer be that particular kind of an athlete. So the author in this story has encountered an illness. It's an immune crazy bag thing. And she really has a similar struggle in the sense that she's got to be a different kind of a human who has encounter after encounter with just poor physical health, to the point where sometimes she can't even have the energy to roll over in bed. Someone gifts her with a plant that has a little snail on it, and the snail becomes really fascinating, and over time the snail, someone comes in and moves the snail to a terrarium, so she's able to watch the habits of this snail, as well as as time goes by, she's able to do research and so forth. So we discover all kinds of what is that? Physical things about a snail, habitat things. Snails have teeth. I just would not have thought it. The way their slime works as a sort of hydrofoil opportunity for them. So the physicalness of a snail is pretty cool, but also the relationship that she develops with the snail in terms of how time moves and how satisfaction needs to be reconsidered. The snail has got a fairly singular kind of life, but within that smallness of life, there are a number of stages of life and things that the snail does for itself and for its offspring that just mean that this little small terrarium world is a symbol, a metaphor for a world that's spent in bed, a world that's spent as an invalid. So it's really beautifully written. There's a lot of food for thought in there, and it's peaceful. It's a very peaceful book. And the author is Elizabeth Tova Bailey, and this won the John Burroughs Medal. I think that has to do with nonfiction writing, but I'm not positive about that. So these two books, I'm pretty sure I spoke about them. That they are the ones that I read this summer. They're both kind of big and thick, and we're talking about the character of Morrigan Crow. The third book doesn't come out until September, October in hardcover, and I think somewhere around Christmas it might come out in softcover. So I'm just going to get it and just plow through it. I loved Morgan Crow. I loved the world that she was in. I loved the problems that she was trying to solve. She's got a group of fellow students who have different kinds of magical prowess, and two of them are just really kooky. I really love them. And she's got a mentor who sort of reminds me a little bit of Howl in Howl's Moving Castle, in that he's one of, and also Sherlock Holmes, that sort of knows things. It can put pieces together in the puzzle quite quickly, doesn't reveal things, has a lot of things that are kind of secret to him, doesn't tell other people, has a little bit of a sense of the future, I think. Anyway, so he's just an interesting adult figure because, okay, you know who else he reminds me of is Dumbledore, because Dumbledore, I guess, sort of knows things or can anticipate things. He's kind of all-knowing in a little godlike way. So anyways, when the third book comes out, I will talk about this more in depth, and I can just rattle on for a good 15 minutes. Won't that be fun? All right, this was a really cool book, Here Be Monsters, and it's written by Alan Snow, somewhere around here. I have the cover, the actual proper dust cover. That's what the art is like on the inside. So if you've seen the movie Box Trolls, which I loved, thought Box Trolls was really a hoot. So these are trolls that are in boxes, and there is a child that they have rescued in the movie who thinks of himself as a box troll. So in the book, that is not what happens. The main character, the boy, whose name I have lost, because that was at the end of the summer, Arthur. Arthur lives with his grandfather, and they, unbeknownst to Arthur, he doesn't realize that they are actually escaping the people in Ratbridge, because grandfathers run amok or are afoul of the people in Ratbridge. One person in particular who has become, I guess, the mayor. It's a completely different storyline, and there are rats in here that are pirates. There are humans who are also pirates. They share the ship. These pirates and rats are a large part of the story. The cheese is actually a character in this book, and the evil villain in the movie was two persons. He was the mayor, but he also was this sort of female puppet thing that everybody fell in love with because she was so beautiful. Yeah. One wonders how one defines beautiful when you see that. So it's just a completely different story. It's just as charming. It's just as adventure-filled. There are other characters that we did not encounter in the movie. There's the Cabbage Head people, for instance. So you can't even really describe the plot because there's just so many elements to it. There's sort of a series of vignettes that connect through, and the goal, of course, is to somehow rescue Grandpa, defeat the evil mayor, and whatever the cheese situation is resolve that. So yeah, there's almost no connection to the movie, but they're both enchanting. And in the previous video, I mentioned, what was the name of the book? Worst Things Happen at Sea. Blah, don't go there. So that's it for this long pile. I will be back with I will be back sometime in September. This should go up probably early September with the pile of books that I'll be reading for the tail end of the summer. There's still 15 more days for me at the time of videoing for books, and I think I got some pretty good ones to take me out of the end of the holiday time. And then I'll be back in the city, and my favorite thing to do is to just, type in millions of books at the library, put them all as active, and then see which ones come in first. And then quite often what happens is I have to go with 2 huge shopping bags and get all my books at once. When you live a small life, you have to live adventurously, and what happens at the library is definitely an adventure for me. So I hope that all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true and that you have a good end of your summer. Although I'm wishing you that wish, and by the time you see this, your summer will be over. So let's just hope that in retrospect it all works. And I'll be seeing you again. Bye bye.